And I was really sick, but she'd seen me go through a lot, so she just left the room. And so when she left, I left. Like I'm watching myself and I'm up above my body. Um, and I'm looking down at the body, and the body is really gray and dark. And I'm really excited to go home because the Creator says we're coming into a new lifetime without physically leaving the body. So as we complete karmically, then we shift in to the new lifetime, the higher aspect of what our soul has agreed to go through.
Wow. I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of The Soul Inspired. Today we have Michelle Phillips with us. She has had a near-death experience. We're also going to dig into the deep connection that she still has with her child that she lost. So I really appreciate her coming on the show. Thank you so much, Michelle, for taking the time today. I know extra early in the morning, so I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us today.
It's my honor. Thank you. I'm grateful.
I each conversation I start with is very similar, but it changes and morphs in its own beautiful energy as we talk. But I always start around the same time, and I'm not sure yet when the NDE happened, but I generally go back to your childhood. I try to kind of get a little background on who you were, maybe some belief systems that you were around in your childhood, and just kind of like the type of person that you were kind of growing into as a child.
Okay. I have always had a direct connection to God. I mean, as a child, I knew that God was my real parents. I used to lay in bed at night and cry, Mommy, Daddy, let me come home, because I thought I was being punished because I had to be down here on the earth. Um, and I've always called Jesus my main man, not through a church or religion. He's just always been with me and he's taught me my work. So then in my early 30s, I went through what I thought was a breakdown, but it was really a breakthrough. But before that, I've always had a connection, like I said, to God and Spirit. I was always channeling, but I didn't necessarily know that I was. I could always read people, um, and I could always experience many times what was happening in the future for them, what they'd been through. But then when I went through this breakthrough, this breakdown, I was guided to this holistic college. Jesus wanted me to go there, and I went kind of kicking and screaming. The time I didn't know what holistic health meant. And he said, go enroll. I said, I don't have any money. He says, enroll. So I enrolled, and my mother, that I had a very challenging relationship. I had written her a letter and actually divorced her, I don't know, a year or so before. I said, anyone I have in my life that affects me the way that you do, I can't have in my life.
Mm.
So when I enrolled, my brother talked to my mother and said I'd enrolled this health college. My mother called me and offered to pay my way. So
Wow.
yeah. So then when I started, I had a horrific childhood. We moved every year, sometimes twice a year. So, now as I look back, I think I kind of had a normal childhood because I don't know many people that didn't go through a lot in this lifetime because the Creator says this is a lifetime of completion. So we really signed up for a lot. So in the holistic college, I started doing massage. I thought, I don't want to massage people, but then I could see inside their bodies. I could see inside their second chakra, and I could see inside the mother's womb where they started picking up their belief systems and patterns, and then was shown how to start healing them. And then I just started taking people into past lives. But I've always known that I lived before, like my first experience of knowing I lived before. I can remember I was 3 years old and I was really looking up at the clouds and I just knew I'm not from here. What am I doing here?
Right.
Anyway, so I've always had the gift. And then the Holistic Health College just really opened me up to do the work I'm doing.
Wow.
Gave me the foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, so you look back now and it was just a lot of movement in your childhood, moving
Oh
around
my
and
God.
yeah.
We moved every year, sometimes twice a year. So I went to a different school every year. It was sometimes two in a year. Yeah.
Wow. But always feeling homesick, it sounds like. That's the same feeling before we started chatting. I said in my
Yeah.
late teens I started getting this feeling. And that's the way I would and then at one point I remember thinking, I remember thinking to myself, man, I've done this. I've done this so many times. What am I doing here? I it's like I almost sometimes have felt like it's kind of like a victory lap is the word I would
Uh-huh.
use. Like I've come in to do something different, but I didn't have to be here. And I know that sounds weird because
It
people have said,
doesn't to
well,
me.
it's yeah, like it just
Yeah.
seems like it's almost like it's not that we didn't have to be here, but there's this feeling of um it wasn't necessary at this time, but it was. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in and do this. And I started feeling that at my late teens, and I didn't know
Yeah.
what that meant. So,
Well, Spirit has shown me again that what's going on in the world right now, that many of us, because the Creator says this is a lifetime of completion, meaning everything we go through, we've been through before. There's nothing new, we're just completing it. And so to know in the spirit world what's going on in the world now. So many of us raised our hands. I can do this. I can do this. So we agreed to come down at this time to really shift the consciousness of the world, because as we awaken spiritually and we are one consciousness, we're assisting so many others. I mean, look at the work you're doing. It's incredible what you're sharing and allowing others, to share with people to really know what's going on, that this third dimensional reality is not all there is. There's so much more to it.
mm, I appreciate that, and that's probably why I also have a fascination in hypnotherapy. I had a couple past life regressions done. I then started learning a lot about Dolores Cannon, the past
Yeah.
who passed recently, but
Hmm.
she said something in one of her interviews around people kind of coming in to help. And it's
Hmm.
funny, like I was listening to it and it felt so real. It felt like, oh, well, that now that makes sense. It
Hmm.
almost like put a puzzle piece into a puzzle. It just is something I was
Absolutely.
always feeling, but I never heard anyone say
Hmm.
it that way. And
Hmm.
so that kind of validates too, just the way you just said that.
Hmm.
So there's probably many of us, probably many listeners feel the same way.
Absolutely.
So
And so many people that I work with, and probably you also feel like they don't know what they're doing here. What am I doing out down here? What is my purpose that?
mhm.
And many times I experience that the first parts of our life are a karmic completion, meaning, what our soul has agreed to go through has gone through so many lifetimes. As we come down in this lifetime, we go through so many of the same patterns, but the outcome gets to be different.
Hey, what's up, Soul Inspired family? I want to take a moment to just talk to you about IANS, the International Association of Near Death Studies. It's an organization that's been near and dear to my heart from the very beginning, and they will be having their annual conference this August 27th to the 31st. It's just outside of Chicago at the beautiful Hilton in Oak Brook Hills, Illinois. They're going to have about 1,000 people, and they're going to be sharing stories that are very similar to that on the Soul Inspired of near-death experiences, consciousness, spiritual awakenings, all the phenomena that goes on. It'll be in one powerful event. You're going to have voices coming up from experts, okay? And these are Dr. Raymond Moody, the one and only, Dr. Bruce Grayson, Diane Hennessy Powell, Mark Anthony, and Carolyn Mace. Now, beyond all the talks, there's going to be a healing center offering Reiki, massage, mediumship, and spiritual counseling. It's a full experience for the mind, body, and soul. So, if this is something that's interesting to you, I would go to ions.org to find out all the details for this absolutely extraordinary event where you're going to come together with like minded individuals around the near death experience.
So when I'm working with people, past lives is one of my specialties. It just came through. Um, and we go into the past lives and clear them and do soul retrieval, bring the aspects of them that were stuck in the other lifetime into them now. It just closes the door. But people always say, without exception, oh my God, those are the emotions I've gone through in this lifetime.
Mm,
So maybe there was a lifetime when they lost a loved one and they were not able to get through it. They come back in this lifetime, someone leaves, only they go forward and like you maybe make a difference for the world. Really from the loss, then they take that loss and go forward with it. So again, it is the lifetime, I believe, of completion. It's incredible. And new beginnings.
hmm Well, and there's
Because
a
the
lot.
Creator says we're coming into a new lifetime without physically leaving the body. So as we complete karmically, then we shift in to the new lifetime, the higher aspect of what our soul has agreed to go through.
Wow. So there's actually a shift of almost shift of lives, but happening while we're incarnated. So while we're in the
Hmm.
body. Well,
Absolutely.
and that's different than the past because in the past it would be your incarnation, you'd pass, you'd go into another life, that type
Hmm.
of thing. Okay.
Well, years ago, when I always called, like I said, Jesus my main man, and he connected me with this spirit. And so I started channeling. White Lily was her name. And then I was doing inner child work, and when White Lily first came through me, she was teaching classes. And then she said to me, this one class, there were so many people there, and she said she wanted me to have my eyes open because the windows, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And I said, okay, but when I got there, oh my God, I was so scared. I said, White Lily, I can't do this. She said, yes, you can. I said, no, I can't. Next thing I know, my eyes are wide open and I'm looking. So spirit is definitely coming through us. Then I was told they wanted me to integrate with her so I could reach a larger audience. And so when we did that, I realized I was channeling myself, a higher aspect of
Mm,
myself integrated with me. And when that happened, it definitely shifted me into another level or higher consciousness of my work. So we're
wow.
just multidimensional souls. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And one of the areas that I never really got too into out of all the spiritual stuff I've been into is the channeling. I've seen videos of people actually kind of bringing messages through, and I haven't ever been able to kind of get, not that I can't get on board with it, but it's always just felt uh, odd for me to watch someone kind of transform. So I
Hmm.
get a little uncomfortable with it, but I've never had anybody actually do it on a show or anything like that.
Hmm.
I do know as a songwriter though, growing up, I was writing songs. I've said this on many episodes that I had no idea where the music was coming from. The words,
Hmm.
I always did it in a freestyle form where it would just come
Hmm.
out without thinking.
Yeah.
I know there's a way that we're bringing things in from somewhere. I just, at the
Yeah.
time I didn't really understand it, but it sounds like you
Hmm.
were doing that throughout. Was this
I'm not
before?
a, I'm a
Sorry,
channel though,
you are.
from the beginning. Yeah, I'm direct channel with God creation. So when I was channeling White Lily, I'm not a trance channel.
Okay, that's where I'm getting the
Yeah.
confusion.
So
Okay.
when she first came through, I was sitting back here and she was here. I'd never been to channeling. I didn't know what was going on,
Mhm.
and I had a women's group. And so she came in here, I'm back there. And before even anyone asked me, ask her name, I knew it was White Lily. So then they asked her a question, and I can remember my thoughts back here were, oh shit, I hope she can answer this,
Yeah.
And she did. It was amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So it
So
just
we were
came to you.
both here.
Right. It would just come to you, but you weren't actually different language or different voice or anything. It was
No,
you.
I
But
wasn't.
right.
Yeah. But
Right. Well,
again, it
that's
was a higher aspect of me coming through
hmm
me that I didn't know at the time. So I think we just keep shifting into higher vibrations of ourself here.
hmm Did this happen all before the NDE or when about did the NDE happen in your life?
No, that was before.
Oh,
So the near death happened in India in 2004. Actually, I was there as a spiritual teacher, and I had a tumor on my left side, and I knew that I had it. And I'd had a lot of health problems in my life before that. And I just said to God, either heal me or take me home, because I'm not doing anything with it. And I'm a healer. So I'm there, and my friend and I were at Sai Baba's ashram, and we're getting ready to go on an 8-hour bus trip to Chennai out there somewhere in India. And so about an hour before we were leaving, the tumor burst. And I knew exactly what it was. My whole body filled with poisons. And so then we're on this bus ride. And by the time, and that night, Spirit's taking me into the higher dimensions all night, showing me what's going on, And um, so then when we get where we're going, my friend helps me into this into bed and in a mosquito net. And I was really sick, but she'd seen me go through a lot, so she just left the room. And so when she left, I left. Like I'm watching myself and I'm up above my body. Um, and I'm looking down at the body, and the body's really gray and dark. And I'm really excited to go home because I work in spirit all the time, a spiritualist. And I'm really excited. And when I get up here, Jesus and the team are saying, we need for you to go back.
Mm,
because you have an understanding of the shadow, because that's a lot of the work that I do also. And we need your assistance on the earth right now. I said, I don't want to go back. They said, we need for you to go back. And they said, if you go back, you're going to have all the love that you've always wanted in your life. So we were negotiating, and I guess I agreed because the next thing I know, I'm back in my body and I'm a baby. And I, as a child, like I said, I used to always, Mommy, Daddy, let me come home. I needed that love. So here I am in the body and I'm a baby and the love was just incredible. And it's like I had the love of Mommy, Daddy, Spirit, God Creator. So the mother energy of creation, oh, the love from God just filled my whole body up. And I felt like a baby. I'm thinking, oh my God, so this is what it's like to be born in love. To be in love. And yet at the same time, I'm in my body, and they're also taking me up in so many dimensions in spirit, just so many different layers. It's like dimensions, like if you could imagine the ocean, only it's just dimensions of light in spirit, the spirit world where they were taking me, just floating. And then they took me into the middle of this golden field. So I had a cousin that passed away or died when I was 12, and I was babysitting for her the night she died. And she had three little children. And it broke my heart. It was something that controlled my life, my whole life. And so they take me to the middle of the golden field, and there's Mary, my cousin. And she's showing me, what it's like and how happy she is, the light and all that. It was amazing. And then she asked me to contact her daughters when I got back to America, which I did. And it was such a great healing for them also. So anyway, in the spirit world, they're just taking me into all these dimensions and what's going on there. And once again, what it's like when we leave. And at the same time, I'm in my body as this baby, so really open to all dimensions. And then for weeks, I just kept going back and forth also between this world and the, spiritual world. And then my girlfriend came back into the room. She put her hand in the mosquito net. She goes, oh my God, Michelle, you're so hot. She goes, I need to take you to a hospital. I'm afraid you're going to die. I said, I'm not going to die. I've already done that. I said, just bring me something to bring my fever down. But,
mm.
and also at that time, again, it shifted me into higher vibrations. It was incredible because I was in Sweden on my tour working, went to India, come back, and it was like I just shifted into the higher frequencies. My girlfriend said, oh my God, seems like you just woke up on the earth. Because it was always easy for me to be in spirit. It was down here that it was more challenging. So all of a sudden on the earth, I could see the trees that I'd never seen. I mean, I'd seen trees, but not the vibrations or dimensions of it that I was experiencing. So the whole world for me opened up into higher vibrations.
Wow. So you kind of in a way saw spirit or the energy of spirit within the world around you, within the physical world around you. How long did that last for?
It lasted for quite a while.
Yeah.
I was going back and forth. Okay, so for quite a while, for a few months, I want to say, yeah. But I was there working. So I was really sick at the time, but I started shifting out of it, spirit healing me. And then I could do my workshops in there. But even workshops that I was going through, I was still in just these higher vibrations. It was amazing.
Wow. When you were and I know like there's a lot to unpack there because obviously you had that experience. You were see this I find this fascinating when people have already been kind of in the spiritual realm of things before the NDE. It's almost like, oh, it's almost like there's not as much of a surprise and they kind
Right,
of
yeah,
move through it a little bit quicker. Whereas some people I talk to that maybe they had a completely different belief system or they just
yeah.
at first it's kind of like, wow, I have to like get used to this. Like, what is this? But then there's this
Mm-hmm,
memory, oh, I remember this and that kind of thing. So
mm-hmm.
that's generally what I tend to hear from people. But
Uh-huh,
when you were in, just a quick question about when you saw, I think it was a relative you saw in a field. You were with this relative of yours
uh-huh.
in spirit. It's a silly question, but I always like to ask it in general sense, like our physicality, right? How real did it feel in comparison to this, like us and how we are
Just as
here?
real. The vibration was higher. She was beautiful. And when I work with spirits, so many people that have lost loved ones, they always come when they were healthy and beautiful. And I mean, she was only 24, so she was young anyway.
Wow.
But when I saw her, oh my God, she was just alive and beautiful and like looking at you, you know, only in
Hmm.
person. Yeah,
But
yeah.
but in a physical sense, for someone who hasn't experienced an experience like a spiritual experience or an NDE, the feeling of it, it was just as tangible as this, as just as our physical, even though this
It
is
is,
physical,
but
but
the vibration of it is higher when you're in the spirit world. It's like you don't have, there's no density there. They're
mm,
just like pure essence or form.
mm-hmm.
So when I was with her, very real, communicating, talking to her, again, just like I'm talking to you. But we didn't have I want to say the density, because down here we still have all of what I called karmic layers between us and the other person. So when we're in the spirit world connecting with someone, it's a high vibration because the density of all of our stories or karmic energies that we've gone through are gone. They're just
Oh.
light with each other.
Mm. As someone who's always been, I've been told a few times I've been kind of a bit of a truth seeker through my life too. And so trying to, it sounds like you had this understanding of spirit. You had this understanding. You were already working in the in this field in this
Hmm.
work. And for someone like me, to have had an experience like that, it would probably be really mind blowing because I'd be like, oh, this actually happens. And
Uh-huh.
so the reason I ask these kind of questions is because I'm thinking if there's an audience member or someone listening who's
Hmm.
who's questioning if there's something beyond this, right? If they're in
Hmm.
that space of like, maybe they've had dealt with some loss or they're just in a place of, not really understanding their purpose in these things and they want to know
Hmm.
that there's a higher self to them. I like
Hmm.
to hear from someone like you when you're explaining it, you're saying it's not as dense, it felt just as
Hmm.
real. I was gonna say, did it prove to you that we are bigger than we are, or had you already known that?
I had known it because I work in the spiritual world, but this was my experience,
Hmm.
because I work with others and bring loved ones to others from the other side. Um, and when we bring loved ones from the other side, again, there's no density, meaning all the karmic stuff or whatever you agreed to go with someone. When you're down here, we have all our patterns and our emotions between us. So when a soul leaves and goes into the spirit world, that's instantly gone, instantly. So then when loved ones come to them, they come to them in this really light, beautiful, pure form. And many times they ask for forgiveness, for whatever they went through down here. But when they come, it's just pure love. And that in itself assists people to heal. Um, so when I was there with her, um, because it was my experience again, it was, of course, the love between us was profound. And anything that she had gone through on the earth um, was gone. So in communicating her with her, she was just this beautiful, light, pure essence of love, of
Hmm.
being. Yeah.
When you came back into the body, obviously you were still not well because you were heated up and you had
Yeah.
to get through this. Did you immediately feel any kind of relief or
Oh my
that?
God. Absolutely. Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that my whole life I would cry over. Um, so I was 12 when it happened, and my mother and whatever, no one ever talked to me about it. And I was the one that was with her. I was taking care of her kids, the night she was killed. So I was so torn up over it. So when that happened, it was totally gone. Absolutely. The pain that I'd felt so much in my life over, what had happened or whatever was just gone. All I could feel was love and the completion of it. And when I reached out to her girls, same thing. They were able to start healing a lot of the loss that they felt when she left. They were just little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was
Because you immediately
tremendous
knew
healing
that
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 happened.
she was okay. You knew that
Oh my God.
we
Yeah.
continue on. And it's interesting that she came to you. It must have been some kind of divine reason for that, maybe to um,
Well,
brain.
because I had been so torn up over it my whole life.
Mm,
No one had ever talked to me about it. And later I mentioned it to my mother, and she said they talked about it all the time. I said, no one ever talked to me about it. So I was still stuck in the loss of it. And
mhm.
yeah.
And I know before we got talking, you mentioned, because you work with a lot of people and you'll see the people they've lost. Those people will come
Hmm.
through with you. And I know later on in your life you then lost a child. Is this right? And so when did that happen? How did maybe we can lead up to that a little bit of how
That
that.
happened 8 years ago. And although I work with people that have lost children, I've counseled people that have lost children. When it was my own, it was a totally different ball game.
Mm,
I mean, and I started looking back at some of the stupid things I'd probably said to people, because I
yeah.
hadn't had the experience of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So when my son Frank left, I was so torn up. And Mother Mary came to me and held me and said, I know what it's like to lose a son. She said she lost hers. And it's interesting because I don't know, a couple of years prior to that, I was in the Bosnia pyramids. And like I said, Jesus is my man. And he's always said, walk with me, and he's taught me my work. So I'm in the pyramids and he opens this door, and it's like a live picture of Mother Mary. Mother Mary comes out of the picture and starts communicating with me. Before that, I'd never really had a connection to her. I always thought, oh, Mother Mary's with the Catholic Church or whatever, Jesus is my man. So anyway, then later I realized he opened the connection with her for me because he knew my son would be leaving. So I knew I got the name of a book that night. I knew I was going to write a book with him, Surfing Through Heaven's Doorways. And because he was a surfer dude, he lived in Hawaii. And it was interesting when he passed and we had his service. It was a Hawaiian service, a paddle out. And so my daughter took his ashes to the bottom of the sea, and I was in the canoe, and everyone else on the surfboards went down, whatever. And I absolutely watched Frank ascend from his ashes. And his picture's actually on the back of my book. He was like dressed in white with a lei around his neck, like Hawaiian. And I'm going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I watch him ascend. And then for his service, the celebration of his life, it was at the ocean there. People would come, oh my God, is this a birthday? There was just so much love there because he was with us the whole time. But after he left, I had just started my tour in Sweden. But it was interesting, before I went to Sweden, he called me and he was reviewing his life. And he was talking about, God, what an amazing life he'd had here. It was just incredible because he surfed all over the world, of course, that
Wow.
was his passion, and the different places he'd lived and his little girl. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm chuckling to myself, I hope he's not getting ready to leave. He's reviewing his life, which he was. But
Mm,
I really didn't know if I was going to get through it. And I went back to Sweden to work, and Frank started showing up immediately. It was incredible. Like I said, he has a great sense of humor. But one night I'd been working, and I was back at this cabin where I was staying. And I was just so torn up, and I knew I was leaving. I wanted to leave. And I left a note, please, because I thought someone was going to find my body the next morning, call my brother in California, blah, blah. And I watched myself get up and walk down to this lake. I'm across from the lake. And I'm thinking to myself, who's walking me? Like, I'm so torn up, I can't even function or walk. So I'm watching myself, witnessing myself walk down to
wow.
the water there. And when I got there, I just started screaming, letting a lot of this emotional pain out. So, of course, I come back. So the next morning, I'm more in spirit than I am here. And I hear, Michelle, listen to me. This is your mother from the other side. And I'm thinking, God, if things aren't bad enough, now my mother's here. And
Ah,
she says, it is not your time to leave. She said, if you leave, your daughters and sister will not be able to get through this. And she stayed with me. And I didn't want her to stay with me because my mother and I have had totally different energy. So then she just stayed with me until I did my last workshop in Stockholm. And then we were going into the mother ancestral DNA. And when we went in and shifted that, started clearing it out, my mother left. And I knew that she'd stayed with me to keep me in my body.
Mm.
But like I said, Frank immediately started showing up. And I didn't know I was getting ready to do sessions. And I thought, I don't even know if I can do a session. I'm so torn up here. And I'm tuning in. And when I open my eyes, Frank is sitting in the chair next to me and he's laughing. So then he started showing up in my workshops. And people would say, well, Frank said, and I said, what? Because he was communicating with them also. And then I could see him standing next to me. So at one point, I just put a chair there so he could sit with me during the workshops. So the last workshop I did in Sweden, this woman comes to me and said, I don't know why, but someone told me to bring these to you. And they were these angel wings. And we call Frank Angel Frank. So he really assisted me, the whole time. But I was still so distraught and torn up. And so I get back to Sedona where I live, and my mother really helped me. We had such a hard relationship. And she just started really helping me from the other side, healed our relationship. And then at one point, I just felt like, oh, my mother's my hero. So you can always heal with someone, whether they're here or
Wow.
there. And then Frank, like I said, really started working with me. So when he passed, they started taking me up into the higher dimensions of what it's like when we leave this lifetime, when we go through the review room, at Akashic Records, what we've gone through in this lifetime, all of that. And then I just started hanging out there with Jesus and Frank. And at one time, I was sitting with them in front of, like I said, the waves that I saw when I went to the near death, just dimensions of color and light. It's like we're sitting in these chairs, be overlooking the ocean, but we're overlooking dimensions of spirit. And then I saw these beautiful crystals. And Jesus said, see those crystals? He said, that's the consciousness that's awakening in your world now. Then, as I continued to go back there, I mean, we meet there a lot. And now, like the crystals are so beautiful, you can hardly see anything else but that. Because of the consciousness that's awakening in our world now. And like there's so much darkness, it seems like shadow, but that's because the light is so high. I mean, look
Mm.
at yourself and so many people that are awakening. It's incredible. So anytime you have that kind of shift of light that's opening, it's going to activate the shadow. It's going to activate the ego. So we're coming together, like when we talked earlier, you didn't know exactly what you were doing here, but then something clicked and you knew you were supposed to be here. It's for this time now.
Mm-hmm.
So then Frank just started working with me, works with me in workshops all the time. As I'm doing private sessions, he's always with me. And his work is the heart. So he, with the whole team, they'll go into the heart where the creator's showing me we have a heart's map. And that map connects to every experience we've ever gone through in life. So as they go into the heart's map, he just starts opening it up and beginning to clear this lifetime, the childhood, and then they go into the center of the soul and into the Akashic records and start clearing other lifetimes out. So when people after the session, or whatever, people always say, "Oh, thank you, Frank," because they can really feel him with them, which
Wow.
is, wonderful for me. So, yeah,
Wow, that's that's amazing. And it's also a blessing because you lost him in the physical, but he stayed with you in the spirit, right? So
very much
he's
so. Yeah.
yeah, that's not and not
Yeah.
everybody gets that opportunity, obviously. It's the thing. I wanted to ask you something because you've said this a number of times and I feel a calling to ask it. You mentioned Jesus being a lot
Hmm.
throughout your
Yeah.
experience, like within your life and in
Yeah.
the other and in the afterlife as well.
Yeah.
I'm noticing something that I'm seeing as a I don't want to call it a trend, but it's something that comes up quite often in a lot of the conversations I have with people who've had experiences, whether they're spiritual experiences, near-death experiences. I also notice it in conversations in the comments. I feel like we're at a stage right now where there's quite a bit of confusion around religion and its its significance in our current state in spirituality. So there seems to be this dialogue. Well, if, I had this, for instance, I'll have someone who's had an NDE who grew up in a very dogmatic Christian, very hard religious situation. They go have this experience, they come back. Now, if they don't see Jesus or they do, it doesn't really matter. But even let's say they don't, they come back and they immediately think, well, I'm not part of that. This is something different now. And so I've tried to come to my own feelings around it
Hmm.
because I'm not against what a lot of the what a lot of religions stand for when it's around the idea of love and
Hmm.
things like this. So and community
Absolutely.
there's certain aspects that make complete sense to me, but then there's other aspects that feel divisive. And it's almost like, but there's this feeling of this Jesus thing that comes up a lot. Like he's present. Like
Very
the
present.
power of that is always present, and that these are sometimes in experiences that aren't even religious people. So I guess,
I am not religious.
and you may not know the answers, but I guess what is your feeling around, because he is obviously something that is brought up a lot in religions. So how do we kind of work around that, right? Because I don't want to also be against religion and religious
Yeah.
people if they have a good intention. So how do we work around that?
Well, I feel like when I speak of Jesus, because he's been with me ever since I can remember as a child, he's guided me. It's not through religion, it's the essence of who he is. And I feel like what we're awakening into right now is that Christ consciousness. It's not necessarily the man Jesus, although I feel like it is the man Jesus that is awakening this for our whole world now. So many people are opening up to the Christ consciousness of who God or Jesus is. Um, and I feel like it's in the DNA, like we're just shifting and we're opening up. I mean, like all over the world, people are waking up to God, whatever you want to call God, the source to be, because it's collective that's happening. So for me, religion, and I'm not against religion, I can go to any church and feel God and Jesus there, or the Christ energy. So I have a brother that's quite fundamentalist. And it's interesting because he was an addict, a cocaine addict, and he knew he was going to die. He'd lost everything. He'd lost his businesses, his home, his wife, everything. And he was going out with this young girl whose mother actually had this cult in Santa Cruz Mountains, California. So he goes to church with her and he just prayed because he knew he was going to die. Jesus, please take this addiction from me. Instantly gone, instantly. And then he became very religious.
Mm,
So then when he became religious, he thought I was doing the devil's work and
right.
he didn't want his children around me. But we've mellowed out. I'm fortunate where we're really close. I have a great family, siblings. But I was just in Oklahoma with my brothers and my sister, and it was interesting because now my younger brother, who's always been connected to God, but he's kind of in getting into religion. And I mentioned Jesus, and my brother said, I'm so glad to hear you say that, Michelle. I don't know, where they've been, but he thought I would do the devil's work or whatever. So he said my other brother asked him to bring my book, my first book, The Creator Speaks, that I channeled from God, the Creator, unexpectedly after my near-death experience. He said, take Michelle's book to your minister. So, meaning,
Mm,
they're going to think I'm, whatever. And it's really interesting because I was there and all of a sudden I could feel this religious energy in my bodies and systems because our systems always matching and merging with its environment. And I could feel the judgments towards me, all this, although I have a loving family. And I was just asking God, Spirit, Jesus, help me to get through this now and to really know who I am in my essence and my work here. So I just feel like God is in all consciousness. The Christ energy is in all consciousness. Religions, I mean, whatever your belief is, God in spirit is there.
okay. So yeah, it's one of those things that keeps it comes up. For instance, with me with music, I teach music all
Mhm.
the time, and going through music all the time.
Which is spirituality.
Right.
It
No,
is.
it's gotten
It
me,
is.
I think at this point in my life, I'm starting to now discover there's a lot more going on as to where it's all come from. I teach people
Hmm.
any kind of music from modern music to chanting, to I would call it Christian music. And
Hmm.
something I've noticed, even though I'm not someone who like, is very hard into religion, when we're doing a song that is a Christian-based song, let's say. I will feel the energy of that song and it feels so light and so good. And then I have
And
this
love.
and love, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And so I'll
Yeah.
have this kind of like, hey, wait, well, am I against religion or am I into religion? Why do I feel good with this song? It's a lot going through me trying to
Yeah.
understand. So it must be that I think there's at its core, at all in all religions, in it at its core, there's this piece of its intention of what it is supposed to be intended for man, let's say.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
the problem is we get our hands in it and
Hmm.
things start to kind of get manipulated, if you will. And so I
Hmm.
think that's where things get tricky for people because they don't want to go into that situation, right? And like you said, you've had Jesus in your life or Christ consciousness within your life, and you wouldn't consider yourself a religious person. So that says a lot right there. So you're already doing that, and you're not needing to have a
You know,
religious label,
years
I guess.
ago, when I was going through this dark night of the soul, how I learned to do the shadow work. And I thought, maybe I need to know the Bible because I don't know the Bible, but I know God. God's my life. Jesus is my life. And I call him Jesus because he's been with me ever since I can remember. I mean, other people call him Yeshua or whatever, but as a little girl, he was Jesus and he still is to me. And Jesus said, you don't need to know the Bible, you need to know me.
Mm,
And I'm not saying I'm against the Bible or religion. I'm just saying, for me, the experience of Christ, the Christ consciousness, God is love. Like I said, I can go to any church and feel that love,
mhm,
not what their beliefs are, but the essence of who God is. And so for me, I feel like sometimes in religion, people are worshiping Jesus or God here. Like God is, okay, praying to God kind of outside of themselves. And so for me, more spiritual is absolutely knowing that that's who we are, that we are the essence of the Christ, that we are the essence of the source of God and creation, and
mhm,
really becoming one with that energy to really co-create what we want in our life and what we want for the world here.
mm. I love
And there's
that.
love, there's only love.
Yeah, and that's what I think I'm feeling through the music when I hear it.
Hmm.
Because even though I'm not a religious person and I'm not creating religious music in a sense, it's I'll listen to it and go, why am I so confused? Why does this feel good? And what they're probably doing is when they are writing those songs and there's a lot of light and love coming through those songs, and I'm feeling that energy.
Absolutely.
So
Uh,
that's that. I've always been. I thought I've never asked that question on my show, but I for some reason the Jesus kept coming up, and just listening to your
yeah,
story. Circling back to your son Frank, who passed, and he works with you, is that what inspired you? Because I know you've written a book. I didn't know
I've
if it
done
has.
5 books.
Oh, you've done 5 books.
Uh-huh.
Is any of those around your NDE, or is it around your communications with Frank, or what is the books around?
Well, the first book that came through me, The Creator Speaks, came through after I came back from India from the near death. And I had been working on a book that about the dark night of the soul that I went through. And I thought, I need to finish this. And I sat down to do it, and I just started channeling this amazing book from the Creator. The Creator speaks as far as what's going on in our world and the beginning and all of that, of consciousness. And so because I'm a channel, I just started automatic writing. And I'm like, I didn't know what I was writing, but I knew it was from God or the source. So the first day when I, finished, I'm like, oh my God. So this book came through in 2004, and it was so far beyond its time that I couldn't get anyone to publish. But now, I mean, I don't read a lot. In fact, it's interesting. I'm dyslexic. I don't read a lot. And I've done 5 books. And I
Wow.
always say to people, this is amazing because we have so many gifts inside of us that are just waiting to be awakened when we can get out of our own way and really make the connection to God and Source, you know. Um, anyway, that book came through me and it's incredible. So I was just reading it yesterday, rereading it. And so when it came through, the frequency was so high, it was hard sometimes for people to understand it, but people that had a high vibration were, oh my God, this is incredible. But now, because the frequency of our world is so much higher, and reading it, it's so easy to read. But my daughter that researches everything says, oh my God, Mom, what you brought through in this book is what people are talking about now, what's going on in the
Wow.
world. Yeah.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And yeah, and just the way you're saying that, that all makes sense to me because there was a lot of things coming out before that didn't resonate with where we're at. Now, a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people are struggling, but I'm going to use that word. I think a lot of people are struggling in what's coming, and that's because there's so much energy from what it looks like that we're all just trying to kind of like bear down. It's like we're holding down the hatchet while things are kind of like, we're trying to get through. So I'm sure that came through in your writings. Where is there a website or where do you have these books? I'm just curious where
You
people.
can go to Amazon and order them. Yeah. I
Oh,
used
okay.
to send them out, but now postage is so expensive and all
Hmm.
that. Yeah.
So Amazon, and that will list all the books that you've written, but The Creator Speaks is the main one that you started with in 2004.
Yes. And then
Okay.
people wanted me to do a book of quotes from the Creator Speaks. And so when I decided to do that, the Creator wanted me to do like a book of passages. So each passage is like 2 or 3 pages, and it's from the original book. And then it gives people at the end of the passage, a technique of how to go through, or to clear or heal or whatever. And then the third book I did, I'm going to hold it up, is this The Creator Heals. Because I was on a tour in Sweden, and this woman that was promoting me had gone through a dark night of the soul like I'd gone through. And she actually connected to me because of it, because I could bring people out of it. And she kept talking about it. I said, I know it, I've got it. And I don't want to hear it anymore. I could feel my subconscious mind opening up to what I had gone through. And it frightened me. And then the Creator said to me, my whole etheric body, if you could imagine the etheric body having a collective DNA system, had matched and merged with that shadow energy of what she was going through. So then the Creator was showing me how to disconnect myself from it, that we are always, always, always matching and merging with our environment. So when you
Hmm.
have an understanding of that, you can choose what you want to match and merge with. So that's how this book came through, and really giving people the technique of how to do it, and
Wow.
it's really going through like the pineal gland, which is our DNA connection to Mother, Father, God, Creator. And when I started opening people's pineal glands, it was interesting. I was doing a small group, and as I was opening the gland, I mean, it's your DNA connected to source. So scientists used to think it was just a gland laying down there, but now they know it's the source. I could absolutely see the DNA open these beautiful strands of light coming out of the top of people's head up
Hmm.
into the source energy. And I was working with people because I was learning how to do this, and everyone's DNA was different. Where some DNA was, yes, take me, I want to be there. And others, because of whatever they'd gone through in life or whatever, maybe was afraid of God or spirit, judgments or whatever. I had to talk to the DNA, sweetheart, you're okay. You're safe, we're with God, you're with spirit, and really communicate with it and open it up to spirit. I mean, it was
Mm.
incredible.
Wow.
And so in this book, Spirit, the Creator really shows you how to match and merge with what you'd like to have in life now. So I was working with someone this last week. She's just so much physical pain, and I'm looking at her body. I can see all this gray, dark energy, brown energy. I said, "Do you watch the news much?" She said, "All the time."
Hmm.
I said, "Well, your whole system has taken it in because anything that's in the etheric body is going to come into the physical body. So she's taking in all of the fear and, just everything that's going on into her system, and she was sick from it,
Hmm.
really closing her down. So it's really important what we're choosing to match and merge with in life.
Well, for a lot of our existence, we've called that stress. And I think we're understanding that stress is much bigger than just, a consistent worry. There's more going on. We're bringing that in. That sounds like the book, the Creator Heals one, is focusing around, I don't want to use the word manifesting, but manifesting those things that you want. I guess it is. It's kind of in the
It
same
is.
sense.
Uh-huh.
And the things that, whether you want to heal or find love but you're right. The energy we put ourselves around can, I know this myself. I've gone through this ebb and flow through my life
Hmm.
where I come into this place where I get little ailments, my body doesn't go into too bad of a thing, but I get little ailments, playing music and my hand and I get things, but then I know that it's built on stress. And what is the stress? Well, then I have to kind of step back. I think a lot of people have trouble stepping back, including myself, but you'd have to take the time to kind of move back and kind of like, what's going on around? and and sometimes not. I think the biggest thing for me, and this isn't a therapy session for me or anything, but I'm going to say it like this for me because some people might relate to this, is I have control in my life, but I don't have control of. I can't think I'm going to be able to control everything going on. Sometimes if we feel like we can control everything, then we kind of like tense up, right? Whether it's a past
Hmm.
relationship or someone, there's something in your life. So but being able to step back and look at things, and it sounds like you go more into the spirit side of things with the Creator Heals. So that's an interesting book. And you said all these are on Amazon, but do you have like a website where people can connect directly with you?
Yes,
They
soulsawakening.com.
soulsawakening.com.
And all my books, everything is on that website, Souls Awakening. Yeah,
Yeah, you've mentioned that you do, I don't know if you do group things and things like that. Or do you do all
hmm
that kind of stuff working directly
I
with
do
people
private
or
sessions, workshops. Yeah,
okay, so you do it all. And you've been
I
doing
do it
this a
all.
long
Yeah,
time and
speaking
you've gone,
engagements.
as we know in your experience in life,
Yeah,
you've kind
call
of seen it and
myself an
done it.
old timer here.
Yeah. But it's amazing. I say it all the time. If you break your leg, you go to a doctor. So you know who you have to go to if you're trying to find some of the answers or just,
Yeah, but I
getting.
also think, our life experience, I've been through a lot. And again, I agreed to. So, like I said, as we look up into spirit, because I do a lot of inner child work and I will go up into the spirit world before people come down here to look what it's like, before they came down. And souls have personalities, which is interesting
Mm,
because I could see a woman up there taking all these notes. So we're in this dimension waiting for our exact like astrological sign or whatever, how we're going to do this lifetime. Um, so we're in this dimension waiting for our number to be called, you could say. And she's taking all these notes. And I said, do you take notes? Oh, all the time. And then I'll see other people that love music up there. They're listening to music because everyone, as they're waiting, their souls are doing different things. So some people are anxious of coming down, other people are excited, other people want to make sure they don't miss anything. But anyway, so I can see her listening to music. I said, do you like music? She goes, oh my God, it's just my life. I love it so much. Or I'll see someone dancing. Do you like to dance? Oh my God, the dance is my life. So the soul has a personality.
mm,
And then when the sperm hits the egg, boom, you take on all the karmic stuff of your parents, your ancestors, and they take on yours. So then your journey starts. But like
mhm,
I said, many people, as they're getting ready to come down, as they're sitting before the karmic review room board, agree. I mean, they'll look at everything they've gone through, everything they still need to heal. And because this is the lifetime of completion, they'll go, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. And then they get down here and like, oh my God, what did I sign up for?
right,
You know?
right.
But like many of us, I've had so much life experience, but every time I go through it, I learn so much. I expand myself into higher consciousness, and from that, I'm able to assist others from my own healing process. So, years ago, I had cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer, uterine cancer. And I started looking at like who in my life has had the health problems I've had. And I could see it was my father. So I thought, I'm going to see if I can go into his DNA. So it's like when you're talking about just the music just comes through you. So for me, of course, Jesus will say, go here, do this. But many times I just know the next step of what to do. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to see if I can go into my father's DNA. So that's how spirit communicates with us, just kind of like through a knowingness, like you know the next step. Okay, you know you should go here, and you think you're going here for a reason, but maybe spirit has you there because you're supposed to meet someone else for whatever. Anyway, so I just felt I'm going to see if I can go into my father's DNA. And when I did, I could absolutely experience how my DNA had become one with his. So he was in World War II and he was a mess. That's why we moved every year. You know, he was in shock anyway. So my system had connected with all the trauma and everything that he'd gone through his life experience. So then I disconnected myself. I did soul retrieval. So I went in his DNA, the whole ancestral DNA of the father, brought myself back, brought myself back. I thought if I can do that, my father's, I can do the same thing with my mother's. So went into the mothers, did the same thing, you know, did soul retrieval, unhooked myself from the patterns and programs that I was playing out from them. And when I did that, you know, then I had two biopsies that said I had cancer. So I went in for cancer surgery because I had my uterus removed. You know, I thought I don't need it. I'm not having any more kids. And I was busy with my work and I thought I don't, you know, I could have healed it myself. You know, I felt, but it would take a lot longer and I want to get on. Anyway, so then when I went in for cancer surgery, not a trace of cancer was found
Oh, wow.
because so much I
Wow.
believe of our sickness disease. I mean, everyone is different, you know, but we
Hmm.
are carrying so much toxic emotion and patterns and programs from our ancestors, our parents and ancestors. And I believe those of us that are the light workers, whatever you want to call us, you know, our agreement in this lifetime, we have become an extension of their patterns and programs. And as we go forward, clear ourselves out, we're clearing it out for them forwards and backwards. So that's how I started doing DNA work in my workshops and all of that. So one of the women had bought my DNA CD, and she was listening to it every day. She's from Poland, and her parents, you know, were just a nightmare. They were always at each other. World War II, you know, the Holocaust, everything in Poland. It was horrific. So she was listening to this every single day. She could just witness what was happening. Oh my God. And then her parents, she said, we're like on a honeymoon, and they still are. So she cleared it out of the DNA. You know, we clear ancestors forwards and backwards. It was amazing how it just shifted her whole family in it. She said it's even more so now, just the love.
So in a way, we're plugged in. We're plugged into them, and we have to learn how to unplug because we're our own person. You said it
Not in a way, definitely we are.
definitely unplug, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you said also like, we bring our personality here, but then
Uh-huh.
the influence of our past can be uh I don't want to say manipulating our lives, but in a way, kind of, you
Controls it. Yeah.
controls it. So,
Hmm.
you work with people to find the way to unhook from that. And so
Right. Yeah.
that's interesting. Wow. And obviously when you're sharing this, I'm sure other people think the same thing. I'm listening in and I'm thinking the same thing. I'm kind of okay, all right. I'm listening to different things. My father passed from alcoholism and things like that. And I'm just like looking at like his life and the life he lived. And then you start to really think, okay, I'm not a lot like him, but some of my personality is. And then you kind of
Uh-huh.
try to like go, okay, so what are we doing here? So everybody listening in, pay attention to what, you've said here, and then we can kind of go from there. But this has been an amazing conversation. I always end the episodes with the same question. Yours is gonna be a little bit different because I'm actually going to lead into a little bit, if I could, the Creator Speaks book, because you mentioned that when you first wrote that, you were writing things kind of not out of context, but in a different time. 2004 was a lot different from 2025. And the last question I generally ask people is, why are we here? You know, what is the purpose of this? It was the question I had in my teenage years, like looking at my, what is the purpose of this thing I'm walking around with? Is there a way we can kind of like integrate that into what's going on currently? You know, what is our current reasoning for our incarnation right now? In 2025, we're all kind of going through a lot, right? And
Yeah,
I'm
we
wondering if you have any insight as to our purpose.
I believe our purpose is to complete karmically, clear out of all of, the karmic stuff. And it's a gift to be here. It doesn't always feel like it, it's like, God, what am I doing here, whatever. But is on the earth plane, we have the opportunity to really free our soul from all of every lifetime we've ever gone through. So it really is a gift to be here. And as we continue to clear that out, we're clearing it out for everyone because the creator has shown me, we call ourselves souls, but we're really cells. We're cell of one consciousness of love. So when we leave this earth plane and we go home into spirit, yes, we have our own personalities, but we really experience that we're one soul of love. So as we clear whatever heal ourselves, we're healing it for so many of other souls or cells also. So, like the Creator says, this is a lifetime of completion and we're ascending. And the Creator says it's the first time we've ascended where we've taken the planet with us. So, we're moving into what people call the new world, the new earth. And we could not do that if we didn't agree to come down here and shift our energy into higher vibrations. And together, we are ascending into the new world, the new earth. And like Spirit always says to me, we can't do this without you, and you can't do it without us. We're all on the same team. And
Mm,
if we ask, Spirit is, if we want assistance, like when I started my work, really consciously, I just said to Jesus, push me, shove me, hold my hand, just get me where I'm supposed to go. And never, ever did I think it would be this amazing life that I have spiritually.
mm,
I mean, never did I think I'd do 5 books. Like I said, I'm dyslexic. I don't even read much. Never did I think I would have the gift to be able to assist people to heal on the level that it comes through me. I mean, I'm just overwhelmed all the time. Thank you, God. So we are spirit. Ask for help because they're just waiting for you to ask. And as you do, they're going to hold your hand. They're going to push you. They're going to shove you. Get where you're supposed to go. And it is to really be the light of the world now,
mm,
to come together in love with each other and to hold that love for souls or cells that can't, like in third world countries or whatever. If we are the one cell or soul from which the Creator says we are, then as we go through the healing within ourselves, we're assisting others also. We're holding the light to get through whatever they're going through. And what the Creator has shown me, there are masters that have incarnated into all these places in the world to really hold the light for all these people that are going through huge karmic completions. So when Frank, my son, passed, what he said to me, he was on the earth plane going through a refresher course because when we're in spirit, we forget what it's like to be on the earth and all the emotions that we go through down here. Because spirit, like I said, as soon as you go home, it's all lifted. And so he said he was on a refresher course because his soul needed to have a memory of what's going on in the world now so that he could really be a part of the healing that's happening. So we're
mm.
down here to really open our heart, move out of all the karmic stuff, and to come back into the love of God, creation, Christ, the source, whatever you want to call it, to really assist this world, through the ascension portals now
Wow.
and back into the one heart of love.
I was gonna say it, I mean, it really puts it in perspective that we're at a really interesting time and a really important time. I also love how you said it's a gift to be here. It's something that I've tried to say. I always have the perspective of being more of an optimist. Like when I hear people say, "Oh, over there, the love was just so amazing," and then, but I come back here and it's so hard, and well, you hear this, and it's easy to feel kind of defeated. But then you have to realize that there is some kind of gift as to why we're here, and we're here for a reason. So I've always kind of left that so people have more of an optimistic approach as to what we're doing. There's something bigger going on, obviously. So,
And I
um,
can't say I've always felt like it's a
right,
gift. I mean,
right,
there are
exactly.
days like, oh
Yeah,
my God,
yeah.
what am I doing here? Take me home.
Hmm.
But the larger picture of it for me, I mean, if we look at her life, it really is a gift,
Hmm. I love it.
especially as we start waking up and assisting others in whatever way our gift is.
And that's part of what we're doing here. I'm
It
so
is.
happy you came on and spoke with us today, Michelle. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking the time and sharing your gift and sharing your experience in your life. I talk to the audience at the end of each show and just say, please continue to like, share, and subscribe to this show, to the Soul Inspired. And if this episode spoke to you or you think it would speak to someone you know, send it to them, even privately. It's something that we're all doing right now. So I love having guests like Michelle on. I really do appreciate you coming on, and
Thank you. It's an
I
honor. Thank you for having me.
So vision. So